Oh yes, it's coming in 3, 2, 1. On the air with FDT-TV, the premier West Ham and Arsenal football podcast, brought to you every Monday by Michael Hawes and Ian Varker. Hello and welcome to attempt number 2 for this week. I am Ian and I am joined by...
I'm Mike.
We did do about 10 minutes and I realised I had no sound, so we're starting this again. We did a really good 10 minutes there. It was probably the best podcast in 10 minutes that anyone's ever done ever. But safe to say it fits in mostly with all of the football from this week. It was postponed. We've gone through postponements. Arsenal, Tottenham, postponed. Lots of other things postponed. One thing that wasn't postponed, but it was rescheduled for previously being postponed, was Liverpool versus Arsenal, which came out at a draw in the Carabao Cup. So, Mike, I know you've gone through it once, but can you give us your feelings again, please, on that game and the result and how things went down?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, as you mentioned, it was a 0-0 draw. I think that's one of the best results that we could have hoped for, if I'm being completely honest. Travelling away to Anfield is a difficult place to go to. Obviously, we picked up a red card with Granit Xhaka getting sent off, so we had to play, I think it was about 65 minutes with only 10 men on the pitch. We did have a chance to nick it a couple of times. Likewise, so did Liverpool. It was a good game. It was kind of end-to-end. No real final product, I would say. There was no kind of clear-cut chances. But yeah, Granit Xhaka overdue a red card, as we just mentioned about 3 times. So he'll be out for the next few games and stuff, which is very disappointing. But yeah, it was. I do think it was a little bit harsh on him because he was watching the flight of the ball the entire way, and it just happened to be unfortunate that Jota was kind of running through and Granit Xhaka decided to lump him one in the chest. So it was just a bit unfortunate. But I've got to say, it was one of the best performances. It was definitely up there with the Manchester City game in terms of defensive performances, knowing that we can do it. And it is immensely frustrating when you look at us to how we played against Nottingham Forest just over a week ago. Granted, I get it was a much changed team, but yeah, it was just like chalk and cheese. Night and day, two very different performances. And I think obviously going into the game this week, which we'll come on to a little bit better, I kind of fancy our chances a little bit. Obviously depending who's fit and available.
Yeah. And obviously we went for a little bit of the selection. We was just talking about who could fill that gap of Xhaka. Would it be Sammy Lokonga, who's not quite the finished article? Could it be Odegaard, who may be sort of a little bit lacklustre, having suffered with COVID? Could it be Callum Chambers, who's played there for Southampton and for Fulham previously? Obviously, there is options, even though Thomas Partey, arguably your best midfielder, is out at the Africa Cup of Nations, which in some sense is good because it means he only has to play 85-minute matches. But that's another story. So that being said, obviously there was. Did we play Leeds in the cup last week as well?
No, you had Norwich.
We had Norwich, which again was a victory. It should have been about 15-0, but once again, West Ham need 18 shots to score 1. But yeah, so we did win. Jared Bowen on the score sheet again. And as I said, he should have had 4 really, but he's dragging us by hook and by crook, sort of. He couldn't quite do it against Leeds this week, but hey ho, can't have everything.
And that leads us nicely on to West Ham Leeds.
Yeah.
Or less said about that about.
Yeah, it was a disappointing fixture. We'd beat them not too long, a week before maybe, in the cup. They had 11 first team players to choose from. 12 first team players to choose from. I'm sorry, and the rest were teenagers. 2 of their first team players went off in the first half, and we were still lackluster against them. And some of that you could say was tiredness for 3 games in 7 days or 8 days, whatever it was. Um, but when you look at it, the team we fielded, we should have put in a better performance. Goalkeeper was less than good. They had one ruled off for offside, which I think was very very harsh. They hit the post, and yeah, I mean Jared Bowen missed a sitter at the very end of the game.
Mm.
Craig Dalton missed an open goal, and I think it's safe to say if we had an out and out striker, we would do much better. Antonio found himself out on the wings and doesn't seem to have the fault and ability to be able to play the simple pass. He hangs onto the ball too long, and he's a winger that's playing a striker's role, and you can't begrudge him because he is doing well at it.
Mm.
But he's not one of those players that the top four teams have, like the Agueros of this world, where you give it to him at the feet in the box, it's going in the net. He's not that player. He has to have 6 or 7 chances to score to get one on target. And that being tired as well, it's a sort of recipe for disaster. I think we should have done better out of it. We should have taken something from it, considering that if Leicester, who are sitting 8th, 9th, win their 4 games in hand, we go below them. So the fact we've got our first choice defenders injured, we've got Vladimir Soufal, who seems to have gone missing this part of the season. Souček's out, but again hasn't done much this year. And Ben Rama's out at the Africa Cup of Nations, who's arguably one of our best players at the moment. He's not looking. There's nothing to be positive about, and the fact that it doesn't look like we're going to bring in anyone this transfer window. I feel we could see the West Ham fans turn. We see Diop get booed off and jeered off when he come off in the 87th minute. Once that turns, it's a long way down. It's a long way from being massive to how it was, and I think the board have got a very very thin line to walk before it gets really bad again, which is a real shame to say.
Yeah, obviously, with just how well you've done over the last couple of seasons, you would think you would see some sort of backing. I know, obviously, David Moyes has come out and said that they're not going to be recruiting for the sake of recruiting. Obviously, they want to get players into that are going to add value. But I think at the same time as that, you do kind of need a little bit of depth as well. I'm not saying they have to go out and spend money on absolute crap just to kind of fill up the squad numbers and rotate them and stuff. There's obviously got to be some value in it at all. But you've just mentioned it yourself. Your players are being kind of run ragged. For the players that are fit, for the ones that aren't fit, there's going to be a host of reasons as to why they picked up injuries and all sorts. But you don't want to further compound that by running them out every game, because they're going to go from green to amber to red very quickly.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? You say about not spending money on Tosh. We have, because we've loaned in Alex Crown, who's got an option to buy, and everyone was quite pleased with that. That actually the 2 guys who were playing really well, Souček and Soufal, sort of vouched for him, said, yeah, he's quality. We like playing with him when we're on international duty. Can't get a game. So it's like 4 million quid we've paid for him on loan. He's played twice. And then you've got Nikola Vlasic, who was lackluster for Everton, went away to CSK Moscow and started to find his feet a bit. Now he's come back to the Premier League as one of our sort of almost record signings. And not only is he being played out of position, but he again is lackluster. It's not. I know, like, it's hard because 25 million doesn't pay much these days, but he needs to be doing better than what he is. Some of it isn't his fault being chucked out on the left when he doesn't play on the left. He plays centrally. But say against Leeds, we couldn't string passes together. Simple. I know I say simple football destroys West Ham, and it really did at the weekend. That was quite obvious. But we would get the ball and pass it to Leeds. We couldn't find our own players, and you're never going to win a game like that. We do need to bring in a defender, a central defender. We do need to bring in a new left back, and we do need a striker. Like, there's we're an aging squad now. I think next year Noble's going to go. Cresswell's sort of the wrong side of 30. Antonio's the wrong side of 30. It's not. It's not ideal. It's not ideal, and we need a couple of good transfer windows with good players. And unfortunately, if you're going to challenge for Europe and top four, and not only do you need a big squad, but you need quality in there as well.
Yeah.
And that's not going to come. So,
we'll see. To be honest, mate, you could just potentially put it down as one of those off games. Obviously, you can beat them because you beat them a couple of weeks ago. I'd just say it's just one of those off games.
I think, I think you are right. I think it all depends on if we can bounce back in our next game, which is a really easy tie. No, to say, but before that came, obviously we did have some predictions that we made. So shall we have an update on that before we make some more?
Yeah, absolutely. So Liverpool Arsenal, just going back to that game, you had 2-1 to Arsenal, I had 3-1 to Liverpool. Score was 0-0, so no points to either of us. West Ham Norwich, you had 4-0, I had 3-1 to West Ham. So it's a point each for the correct result. The West Ham versus Leeds, you had 2-1, I had 2-0, and it was 3-2. So no points there. And Tottenham versus Arsenal, which I'm sure we're going to come on to in a bit, was postponed. So no points to either of us. So a massive 1 point each. So that takes the season totals. Ian, you're currently on 34. I am on 30.
Yay!
So there we go. Moving on to this week's fixtures.
Yep.
A couple of them. We've got Arsenal versus Liverpool, so the home leg now, which should have been played first anyway, and then Man United versus West Ham, and then finally Arsenal versus Burnley. I'm going to be slightly controversial here, Ian, and say, do you want to give us your thoughts on the Arsenal versus Liverpool game?
Yeah, well, I have just turned it upside down because obviously it did say Liverpool versus Arsenal. So now it says Lassen versus Love. We're not Russian, but reverse fixture. Yeah. What can I say about this? Are we going for the full time result, or if there's extra time, or is it just?
That's a good question. I think if we go by the full time result.
1-1.
Full time result. 1-1.
1-1. I think you might nick it on penalties. I'm going to only go 1-1.
Okay.
I don't think you were second class by any stretch of the imagination in the last game, and Liverpool were at home, which every Liverpool fan would argue that they are almost undefeatable at home, and you were down to 10 men. So although you did sustain a little bit of pressure, I think with 11 men on the pitch, you would have won that game, because you would have had the ability to get out a bit more and press a bit higher up the pitch. So I think with 11 men on the pitch, if you can keep 11 men on the pitch, I think you will. I think you will certainly draw. I think you take the lead and Liverpool get a late one, and it'll go to penalties. At which point you'll win on penalties. That's my prediction.
Okay. I am actually very hopeful that we are going to win 2-1. So I think we will start off brightly.
Yep.
We'll get the goal. Liverpool will equalise not too long after, and then we will get a late winner. That is what I'm hoping for. Obviously, we did, as mentioned in the recap, it was a very dominating performance by an understrength, I put in air quotes, Liverpool team, which is why they requested for the game to be postponed when I think they were only like 3 players short of their first team. But again, we'll come on to more about postponement shortly. I think this is something that, with the players that we've got out, we did see a lot of fighting spirit in that Liverpool game. And I'm going to pip us for a 2-1 win at home. Come on, you got it. It ain't going to happen. We're going to get battered 3-0, but I'm going to go for 2-1.
Okay, and that then takes us on to the next game, which is Arsenal again.
Man United versus West Ham.
Oh, it's Man United versus West Ham first, and that's over there a little bit because I picked the wrong thing to start off with. Man United versus West Ham. Man United seem to be in a bit of disarray at the moment. Number of players wanted out. Rangnick sort of putting players out to the press. Martial saying he refused to go in the squad. Martial says, no, I don't. I've never done that, never will. Ronaldo, does he want out? Does he want in? No one seeming to want to buy into this 4-2-2-2 press. Harry Maguire's a pile of shit. He's not cupping his ears in the Premier League, is he? Only against a binman. Like, he'll do that. So it's one of those away forms better than our home form at the moment. We've had a lacklustre performance. We've got the ability to beat Manchester United. We've shown that by beating Liverpool, by beating Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? But we've not got those first team defenders in. So that's my concern. You know what? I'm gonna go for a 1-0 West Ham win.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a boring match, and then we're going to nick it right at the end.
Okay.
I'm being hopeful.
I'm going to be slightly controversial here, and say I think it's going to be 2-1 win to Manchester to West Ham. Sorry.
Okay.
Why is that doing it? Stop being stupid. No, whatever. 2-1 West Ham. We have seen some absolutely outstanding performances from West Ham this season. As you said, it's a kind of a bit hit and miss with Manchester United at the moment. They seem to be struggling, as you already mentioned, with adapting to the new manager's philosophy. And I think this could be a further upset for Manchester United. And I would hazard a guess to say, I know he's only in on an interim basis till the end of the season, isn't he? But yes, potentially could we see another departure if results start going against them again? So yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to West Ham on this one. I think
my understanding on Rangnick is that he's there till the end of the season, and then he will take a role of like a director of football or something along those lines at Man United. So I can't. If that's the case, I can't see him getting rid of him. But I know what you mean. The players are not buying it, are they? At the minute, it doesn't seem like that. And that leads us on to our final fixture of the weekend, which is Arsenal versus Burnley.
Yeah.
What's your prediction on that?
We have just seen Chris Wood go from Burnley to Newcastle.
Yep.
I've got to be honest, I was actually a little bit surprised by that signing. I'm not for 1 second saying he's not a good striker, but I just would never have pictured that deal from going through, if I'm being completely honest. Burnley obviously not too great at the moment in terms of being in the table. They are rock bottom. So the Magpies have finally got off the bottom of the table. I know we've mentioned, or I'm not sure if this was in take 1 or 2 about Dyche going to possibly going to Everton. It would be a good shout. Obviously, Burnley's in a bit of a shit state at the moment and has been for a couple of seasons. So it may be time for Sean Dyche to kind of part ways with the club, or the club to certainly part ways with him. So yeah, I'm going to go for a comfortable 3-0 win for us on this one.
Okay, I'm going to go for an odd thing here, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. I'm going to go for postponed.
Okay.
Do I get 3 points if it's postponed?
I'll give you 3 points if it's postponed. Yeah,
that's what I'm going for. I think you've hit some real key points there. With obviously Chris Wood leaving, Sean Dyche maybe he's looking at is there better options about. Obviously they've struggled. They're an aging squad now. He's trying his best on a limited budget. He's one of the longest serving managers in the UK. but is it time to go? But the past for the
Rip
past.
Claude.
Is it time to move on maybe, and look for something new for both club and manager? I know he gets annoyed in his press conferences when people say, obviously Burnley in a relegation battle this year. He's like, we're in a relegation battle every year. Our budget's smaller, our wage budget's smaller, our ground's smaller. We're always down there. We make good of it, and they are hard to beat. But yeah, I think this may be their final season in the Premier League for some time, if I'm honest. On paper, Arsenal, obviously, you walk all over them. It's never quite that simple against Burnley. But with Chris Wood, who's been their top goal scorer in the last 3 or 4 seasons, always in double figures. He's not hit the ground this year or hit the ground running this year. I don't see where their goals are coming from, which is a real concern. But 25 million for him is good money in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I reckon Eddie Howe walked into the owner's office and he said, I need a striker. And the bloke went, Mbappe? Yeah, we can do Mbappe. How much do you need? He went, no. He said, all right, Haaland. 200 million? That do? Haaland? No. I just need 25 million. Only 25? He's like, yeah. I want Chris Wood from Burnley. And he went, oh, okay. Okay, cool. But that's not how the Newcastle fans anticipated this move game. One of the richest guys in the world, and you've ended up with a Kieran Trippier who passed his best and Chris Wood. To be a Tottenham fan. I mean, they did it. Luca Digne. They didn't even go in for Luca Digne. Ooh. It hurts me, and I'm not even a Newcastle fan. But yeah, that game's being postponed. In other news around football, Fishwood's obviously moved. Rafa Benitez, Agent Rafa, as the Liverpool fans are calling him, has been sacked.
Yep.
Not gonna say I didn't see it coming, but they've been really poor. They lost to Norwich. All the players are saying it's the worst that it's ever been there in terms of atmosphere. One of the fan favourites has been forced out the club for not a lot of money, you got to say, for a decent left back, and wrote an open letter to fans. I don't know if you saw sight of it.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It was quite good actually, because what he said is that he loves Everton and he thanks the fans for everything they've done. They've always been there, always backed him, even when he's not been playing the best, and he thanks them for that. And that he wishes that the love affair had never ended. But unfortunately, it only takes one person to ruin that, and that person is Rafa Benitez. So it was brutally honest, and I thought it was quite good, saying you don't really see in football anymore. My question is, obviously, without him, they are a lot worse off as a team. Should they have sacked Rafa 3 weeks ago? Because they probably would have kept him if he'd gone. And they've sacked Rafa and lost one of their sort of fan favourite best players. I know you could argue, and what he said is circumstance. Obviously, Richarlison's been out for a long time. Calvert-Lewin's been out for a long time, who are their 2 best strikers and attacking players. But in the same sense, he brought in Solomon Rondon. I know, I need attacking backup. Let's bring in Rondon, who's past his best by 7 years. He had 1 good season. Let's bring him in. I'm sure Liverpool fans will be happy. My concern is, obviously, well, it's not really a concern. I think, if I'm totally honest with you, Everton, if they don't get the next managerial appointment right, are in real danger of being relegated this year. That's my opinion of the week.
And it's immensely frustrating, again, with some of the performances they have had this season. I think they've been a bit a bit unlucky
Yep.
on some of the decisions. However, why you don't see teams coming like that when they come up against an informed Arsenal team? Let's be honest, we're the informed team at a particular point, and they absolutely hounded us and battered us. And
Yep.
it just begs the question why they can't do that week in, week out. I think it's fair to say that me and you have got a little bit of a soft spot for Everton. Obviously, been up to their ground, did the tour, bought the shirts.
Cheapest football shirt I've ever bought.
Yeah, it is such a shame because they are one of the old school. They've got such an amazing ground. I would love to go there and actually watch a game.
Yep.
Just because it reminds me of the old West Ham Stadium, the Berlin ground. That was again one of the best games I've been to.
Yep.
Such an atmosphere. I can imagine the place is absolutely buzzing, but I can imagine it's buzzing when things are going well. But at the same time, if things aren't going well, I reckon you probably feel how toxic it is there.
Yeah.
And you're right, they do need to string a few good results together, get the next managerial appointment correct. Otherwise, they will be in danger. I do completely agree with you.
Let's put it this way: if Burnley were sitting bottom, are they bottom of the table? Burnley.
Yep.
If they win their 2 games that they've got in hand, they're only 2 points behind Everton. And you'd like to think, obviously, Norwich are probably a given for going down, but again, they got a result against them. Could that change things? Obviously, they've got a new manager who's slowly changed it. You can see there is some intent in what Norwich are doing now. I don't think they've got the quality to stay up, mind you. Burnley, you like to say, are very difficult to beat and usually get themselves out of trouble. Newcastle are spending money, and okay, they've only spent a little bit, bought in 2 players. I think we're going to see a few more players heading that way before the end of the transfer window. So they could get out of trouble. Watford blow hot and cold. They can string 10 results together. They could lose 10 in a row. So that really does make them a problem, especially if all the players say it as it is. It's a toxic atmosphere. Okay, a new manager will try and change that, but that's going to take time, isn't it? It's not it's not an overnight fix. That's making everyone happy again and want to play again. And some of that comes with winning. I do really think they're in trouble, which will be a shame because they've got a new stadium on the way as well, won't they? Biggest stadium in the Championship. Hey. But what else? There was another bit of news as well. I can't even remember what it is. No. It's good, isn't it? It's good. It's good when you go, I should write that down, and you never do because memory like a sieve.
Hey, I've got something.
Go on.
Aubameyang.
Yes.
He's been sent back to Arsenal.
Yes.
From the Africa Cup of Nations because he's got apparently heart lesions.
Yes. Go on.
I've got to be honest. I tried to do a little bit of research before coming onto this to understand what it is. But for me, it just sounds like he's got clogged arteries or clogged valves or something, which he could end up dropping dead for.
There's 3 schools of thought on it. The first being it's legitimate and it's something that's gone unnoticed before, which I think is unlikely, which then causes great concern. He's at the end of his playing career because that's potentially a big problem. Number 2, that it's nonsense. He just can't be bothered anymore. And he's just going, I've got a big payday. They either have to buy me out the contract or I'm going to sit here for 2 years and earn $300K a week. Or number 3 is Mr. Conspiracy Theory. There has been linked with COVID vaccinations, heart issues. There are a number of sports people who have had heart attacks on the pitch. I don't know if you've noticed, in the crowd, there are lots of people who are now dropping down with heart attacks every week. And there's been postponements. and there has been a lot more coroner's reports saying the rate of heart issues and other things has gone through the roof. So I'm not saying that's confirmed, but is it that there's been a lot of sports people who have never had problems? Aguero's another one. Monthly heart scans as part of his Man City career, never a problem. Moved to Barcelona, and all of a sudden he's got all these heart issues, so he's had to retire. So not saying that is the case, but I do like a conspiracy theory.
I suppose we need to find out if these players have actually been vaccinated or not, because there's a large portion of them that have come out and said they're not even vaccinated, not even had one vaccination. So yeah, I like your school of thought there. I like it.
There's 3 ways it could go, and it's got to be one of them, isn't it? Let's hope it's total nonsense. He just wants to sit on 300k a week, because you wouldn't wish that upon anybody, no matter how bad of a striker they've been the last few weeks.
Surely there has to be some sort of clause for if you're not able to fulfill your contract. There must be some sort of termination agreement. I'm not saying that they have to pay the whole thing off that.
Well, I've heard of there being injury release clauses in certain players' contracts that are particularly injury prone. Now, I've remembered, and it's linked in quite nicely. Christian Eriksen obviously fell down with a heart attack. Was released from his Serie A contract with Inter Milan, because in Italy you're not allowed to play football if you have heart defects or a pacemaker fitted. So he's no longer allowed to play in Italy professional football, which is why they released him from his contract. So he's been linked with a Premier League move to Brentford. So that the question I did have for you is, obviously Italy have looked at it and gone, actually, these people it's potentially detrimental to their health to be playing like this because of the high heart rates and cardiovascular intensity of it. But in England, we don't give a flying fuck. Do you think maybe it's time we reviewed it and looked at something with some reasonably new studies and looking at what's best for players' healths?
Yeah, quite possibly. Fancy that, the cash cow Premier League taking into consideration the needs of the players or the fans and stuff. I do completely agree with that. I actually thought that he had retired from football because of that, because of the significance of the I want to say injury, but it's not the situation, because I know he was fitted with, I think it's something similar to
Daley Blind.
Yes, yeah, and he's a player where he's had to seriously consider his football career, hasn't he?
Yes,
because there's been a couple of times where he's kind of collapsed on the football pitch, and that's when you get the arterial, I think it's arterial fibrillation, kind of kickstarts the heart back into motion again and starts getting a regular heartbeat. So he's only out for a matter of seconds, but you can't do that week in, week out, surely.
Well, you'd like to say it's probably not good for your health.
Yeah, potentially.
Who needs a heart anyway,
eh? I don't. I've got no heart.
Mine's made of ice. But yeah, the other thing that I thought was quite good is one Philippe Coutinho. Came back to the Premier League and equalised for Aston Villa in his home debut. Nonetheless, Gerrard very pleased, obviously played with him, and he said he needs somewhere that he's loved and that he's cared for, and this is that place. And Aston Villa fans obviously will be very happy with their return straight away.
It just needs to be consistent, doesn't it? Because again, it could be one of those things. Is there because it's a loan, isn't it?
Yes.
Is there an obligation or option to buy?
I think there probably is an option to buy at the end, because Barcelona want him off the books. The way I look at it, Mike, it's the last loan spell he had. He won the Champions League.
Yeah, true.
Or did he win the Champions League? Yeah, he did, didn't he? With Bayern Munich. So, not too bad of a loan spell, the last one, was it?
That's when we were kind of in for him as well. But that ship's obviously well and truly sailed. could potentially obviously rear its head again in the summer, but I doubt it.
I don't think
Yeah,
he's a top quality attacking midfielder anymore. I think he's past that, and I think he knows that. He knows that his opportunity to play at the top level has probably gone now. But to be a team that's competing and certainly recruiting well again, the Aston Villa, the recruitment staff have got to be praised. I think the owners have got to be praised. They backed Dean Smith, didn't they, to quite a good extent, and now they're backing Gerrard.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people saw Aston Villa as a really potential banana skin for Gerrard, but actually, if he's backed in the way that he seemingly is, and if that continues, they will end up the right end of the table. And will he want to go to Liverpool? I know he's probably his dream job being at as a kid he was an Everton supporter, wasn't he? But he come up as a Liverpool fan or a Liverpool player. But will Liverpool back him in the same way that Aston Villa have? Probably not. They backed Klopp on a couple of players, but not really big money. I think they bought Van Dijk, and that's the only big money signing that Liverpool have made, isn't it? Other than that, they've all been relatively cheap in terms of football transfers.
Yep.
So yeah, do you know what? There's a helicopter, right? And it's just coming over again. It goes over 2 or 3 times a day. And I've got no idea where it's going or what it's doing. But I hear it a few times a day. It really gets on my nerves. But yeah, Coutinho, do you potential hit or flop?
It's a difficult one because obviously when Rodriguez went to, well, that was one of those ones that I think people were expecting great things from him, but never really happened. And I think it was sold the year after or 6 months later.
Yep.
So yeah, it didn't really happen for him. I think he is one of these confidence players. If, as you mentioned, if people kind of back him and he's in the team regularly, you would assume that he's doing all right there. I don't think he's going to get goals week in, week out, but he'll certainly contribute towards the rest of the season for assists and potentially 1 or 2 more goals. I think it would be as strange as I thought it was at the time that the agreement was made. I think it could be a good move for both parties, as in Aston Villa and Coutinho.
Very good. One last thing. It's sort of football related, but it's not. Is this the end for Arsenal Fan TV? I don't know if you've heard the news. One of their regulars, Mr. DT, Mr. Good Enough, as he's actually known, quite clearly not good enough because he's now inside for 3 years. Yep, he has been sentenced to 3 years in prison. It was originally 1, but they appealed it because it was a too lenient a sentence. Essentially, he stalked his ex, threatened that he had his kid in the car and he was going to kill it with a knife, so she needed to come outside. So dragged her out of a hotel, partly clothed up while filming her. Someone helped out and she got away. And then he ran off. But yeah, he's now inside for 3 years. Arsenal Fan TV have severed all links with him quite severely. But do you think that is the end? Obviously, you've got the guy, the intense stare guy who now works for Barstool Sports. Did the voice for FIFA. He's probably Troops. He's probably the only one. You look at him and go, actually, he's the dodgy one. He seems to be the only one that seems a bit sound. Robbie's Robbie's all right, but rubs some people up the wrong way. One's inside, one's dead, and the other one's still clobbered in Arsenal gear. So much Arsenal gear he can't move. Do you think maybe it's
gives me a run for me money?
Yeah, do you think maybe it's time to call it a day?
No. Well, it depends because I think AFTV appeals to a lot of people, even people who don't support West Ham, people who don't support Arsenal support or like the channel or just go on there for the bants,
the memes.
Yeah, and it is crazy the volume of people that go on to that. I mean, it was something I used to watch religiously, but then they started getting excuse my language, dickheads on there, and it was becoming immensely frustrating that they all seem to be jumping on the bandwagon. Then you look at the comments and stuff throughout the videos that people were texting in, and they were like, no, you've got jump on the Arteta out bandwagon, and they string a few good results together, and then all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, we said you should stick by the manager, and it just started getting to me. And just seeing the amount of negativity that was going through that channel, I had to stop watching it. I'm very surprised by that, because I'll say that DT has been very quiet on social media recently. Very quiet. Stopped doing videos. His Twitter used to be very, very vocal. It just went through a period of silence, and he come out and said stuff along the lines of, yeah, just not in the right place. I've come off it for my mental health, when obviously now that's obviously why.
Well, here's the one thing. His name is good enough, and none of the papers have picked up on the pun that he's not good enough. Missing out on some bants there, but time to go.
Mate, you need to like get involved with the newspapers or something. Well, just be their catchphrase guy.
Yeah, be the pun guy. Yeah, wow. But yeah, so that's interesting. It's not really football related, but it is football related. We don't condone obviously stalking exes and dragging them out of hotel rooms naked with a knife. Shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. Naughty. Yeah, if you are thinking about it, don't. Or in fact, don't do that to anyone. Like, doesn't have to be an ex, just across the board. Don't do that. It's not good.
Not nice.
Yeah, not nice. Naughty. Probably be VAR reviewed, and they'll go, don't know if it was clear and obvious error. It's close.
Oh, VAR can just suck my left nipple.
And we haven't had many VARs this week, or any VAR this week, because lots of postponements. So a bit hard to ridicule something when it's not happening. It will have made a mistake, but we haven't caught it.
It was just a collective groan.
Did you also see James Ward-Prowse's free kick?
No.
Oh, wonderful knuckleball into the top bins. Probably be up there for goal of the season, I'd imagine. About 35 yards out.
I'll have a check out of that.
A helicopter's back. It's going back the other way now. Mate. Absolute nonsense of a helicopter. Right. Well, considering the last 5 minutes, I don't think there's anything else for us to discuss this week.
No.
So until next week, I've been Ian.
Mike.
We have been on the air with FDT-TV, and we will see you very, very soon.